not get along.
In real life?
In real life.
I did not know this.
Yeah. Like we didn't get. But every single week before taping, we'd come together, we'd put our hands together, we'd bow, and we'd pray before we go out there.
Before stepping into what felt like a war zone, two men who didn't even like each other much held hands and prayed. This wasn't a scene from a movie. It really happened. Malcolm Jamal Warner and Eddie Griffin, two actors with a rocky relationship, had to put their personal issues aside every week for 4 years. Why? Because they weren't just making a TV show, they were fighting a hidden battle that most people had no idea was going on. This wasn't just about entertainment. It was about survival. For over a decade, Eddie Griffin has been sounding the alarm, warning anyone who would listen about what he called an emasculation program in Hollywood. He believed there was a quiet but powerful push to weaken and silence outspoken black men, especially those who refused to conform. And while many dismissed him as just another loud comedian, Eddie believed he was uncovering something real and dangerous. But even Eddie couldn't predict what would happen to Malcolm. Everything changed on July 20, 2025, when Malcolm Jamal Warner, known to many as Theo from The Cosby Show, was reported dead. The news shocked fans, friends, and the industry. But Eddie didn't respond with a standard rest in peace post. Instead, he shared a raw and emotional message that sounded more like a soldier honoring a fallen comrade than an actor mourning a colleague. He wrote, "The world lost a father, a son, a poet, a musician, an actor, a teacher, a writer, a director, a friend, and a warrior. A man I went to battle with, not just against the industry, but sometimes against each other. Because that's what brothers do. But the love was always there, and it still is." Notice what he said: "We didn't just work together. We went to war." That wasn't just emotional language. It reflected the real pressure and pushback they faced behind the scenes. When they filmed Malcolm and Eddie, they thought they were building a stage to show real black life with honesty and dignity. But it wasn't easy. Every script was a fight. Every scene was a silent protest. Eddie once said working on that show felt like dropping out of Harvard and enrolling in a community college. He wanted to create comedy without stereotypes. But the system didn't want that. They wanted something else: louder, dumber, more cartoonish. They wanted characters who would act the fool for laughs. Malcolm was caught in the middle. He had once been America's favorite TV son, but now he was dealing with a system trying to break him mentally. And when he refused to play their game, they shut it down. Malcolm and Eddie ended after 88 episodes, just 12 short of the 100-episode mark that unlocks syndication money. Why did they stop? Because Eddie and Malcolm refused to stay in their lane. They learned something most people never do: in this business, you can fight back, but you'll never win, at least not on their terms. You can raise your voice, but they have bigger weapons. And if you become too loud, too bold, too honest, they silence you. One way or another. Eddie had been warning about this for years, not just in interviews but through his comedy. His stand-up wasn't just for laughs, it was full of clues, lessons, and warnings. He pointed out a disturbing trend: almost every famous black male star had been made to wear a dress on camera at some point. According to Eddie, that wasn't coincidence. It was a strategy: strip away their masculinity, toss them a bit of money and fame, and distract the audience from what's really going on. Even more chilling was Eddie's warning about Bill Cosby long before the headlines. He said that in Hollywood, a powerful black man is never left alone. If you rise too high, they come for you. Just look at Michael Jackson, Kobe Bryant, Prince, and now Cosby. Eddie wasn't defending or accusing anyone. He was pointing to a pattern. Cosby, he said, became a target when he tried to buy NBC. Suddenly, decades-old stories resurfaced, perfectly timed, just as the legal deadlines were running out. He explained the process clearly. First, they come for your name. Then, your legacy. And if that doesn't stop you, they come for your life. Malcolm had been playing it safe for years. He stayed quiet, stayed professional. But something changed. In his final year, he dropped the mask. His Instagram turned into a platform for truth. He started calling out the toxic content pushed on Black communities, how entertainment is used to spread pain, trauma, and stereotypes. He said out loud what many only whispered: this isn't just about making money. It's about control. And Malcolm refused to be controlled anymore. At the same time, big stories were breaking, like Jeffrey Epstein's secret network and the deep corruption tied to it. Malcolm, the man once seen as the innocent TV son, was now speaking boldly about the system itself. His words became weapons. His poems and posts were striking nerves. He wasn't just talking about racism. He was talking about mind control, manipulation, and the way powerful people shape how we think. Then, just days after posting a hopeful video where he smiled, but looked tired in his eyes, Malcolm disappeared. He was found drowned off the coast of Costa Rica. No witnesses. No foul play reported. Just another accident. But Eddie knew what it was. He saw the signs. He posted another heartfelt tribute 3 days later. But once again, he didn't speak like a grieving co-star. He spoke like a man who had lost a fellow soldier. This isn't just grief, Eddie seemed to say. This is war. And they got one of ours. He didn't call Hollywood an industry. He called it the machine, a term activists often use when talking about systemic oppression. It's not one person or one company. It's a network of control. And Malcolm, by daring to fight back with his voice and truth, became a target. His podcast Not All Hood challenged everything the entertainment industry had been pushing for years. His interviews connected dots between entertainment, government, and social manipulation. And because he wasn't a random person, he was Theo, people listened. He had trust. He had love. That made him dangerous. And when they couldn't discredit him, they did what Eddie always said they would: they made sure he'd never speak again. In the end, this story isn't just about Malcolm Jamal Warner. It's about a bigger fight. A fight over truth, image, power, and who gets to tell their own story. Malcolm wasn't perfect. But he was brave. And in his final year, he used every moment to push back against a machine that wanted silence. Eddie summed it up best. They couldn't let Malcolm live. He had too much truth in him. And sometimes, that's all it takes. In his final months, Malcolm Jamal Warner was trying to do something that few in his position ever dare to attempt. He wasn't just speaking his truth, he was connecting it. He was drawing lines between entertainment, power, oppression, and a system that has long profited from keeping Black voices boxed in. Through emotional, thought-provoking poetry on Instagram and deep, unfiltered conversations on his podcast, Malcolm was peeling back the curtain bit by bit. And it cost him. He had become dangerous, not because he was violent or reckless, but because he was fearless. He wasn't playing by their rules anymore. The once safe TV son had grown into a man who understood the game and decided not to play it. Eddie Griffin saw it coming. And when Malcolm passed, Eddie didn't just mourn him. He called it what it was: a takedown. A warning shot to anyone else thinking about going off script. But to truly understand why Malcolm changed so drastically in that last year, you have to understand one key part of his life, a person, really. Michelle Thomas. Michelle wasn't just another actress or a passing love interest. She was Malcolm's heart. His balance. The person who gave him strength in a world that often tried to strip it away. Most people remember her as Justine, Theo Huxtable's sharp and loving girlfriend on The Cosby Show. But off-screen, she was even more powerful. Michelle came into the industry with something rare: conviction. She had standards. She stood up for authentic representation and never sold herself short, even when the industry tried to box her in. She believed in something bigger than fame. That's what made Malcolm fall in love with her. Not just her beauty, but her courage. Her refusal to be changed by Hollywood's pressure. Their love story wasn't built on red carpet appearances or magazine features, it was rooted in respect and purpose. Their 5-year relationship was more than romance. It was a partnership. A foundation. Michelle taught Malcolm how to stay grounded while standing in the spotlight. How to remain real in a world full of illusions. But everything changed when she was diagnosed with cancer at only 28. Her illness was aggressive. And despite her pain, she faced it with incredible grace and peace. She didn't complain. She didn't hide. Malcolm was right there when she took her last breath, holding her hand, sitting by her side. That moment shattered him. But it also shaped him. From that day on, Michelle became a part of him. Not just a memory but a moral compass. Every role Malcolm accepted, every public statement he made, and every boundary he drew, he asked himself, would Michelle be proud of this? She became his inner guide, his protector in spirit. And for nearly 30 years, she helped him stay afloat in a business designed to drown people with conscience. But in his final year, something inside Malcolm cracked. He stopped trying to balance Hollywood's game with Michelle's ideals. He stopped pretending. He stopped filtering his feelings. His Instagram posts weren't just frustration, they were freedom. He wasn't hiding anymore. He was done running. And that kind of honesty? That level of raw, conscious resistance? Hollywood doesn't know how to handle that. Michelle would have been proud. Because for the first time in years, Malcolm stopped performing. He started living fully in his truth, no matter the cost. He became what the industry fears most: a man they can't manipulate. A man too principled to buy. Too aware to distract. Too brave to control. That's when things started moving fast. Eddie Griffin recognized the pattern right away. Because he'd seen it before. He had lived it. Eddie had always warned about the machine, the powerful, hidden system that chews up anyone who steps out of line. And when he paid tribute to Malcolm, he didn't do it with a sanitized press release or a carefully worded tweet. He spoke with the pain and clarity of a man who knew the truth. Eddie didn't just mourn Malcolm's passing, he named it for what it really was: a quiet, calculated takedown. Not some random accident. Not a tragic fluke. Not just another drowning. This was a removal. A silencing of a voice that had grown too loud, too sharp, and too connected. Think about it. Do you really believe Malcolm Jamal Warner's death was just a coincidence? This man was exposing deep truths. His poetry revealed how we're being programmed to think a certain way. His podcast broke down how media reinforces stereotypes about black men. His interviews opened people's eyes to the connection between entertainment, exploitation, and systemic control. He was waking people up. And when that happens, when someone with credibility, history, and influence starts pulling back the curtain, they become a threat. Not because of what they've done, but because of what they might inspire others to do. Eddie Griffin's words weren't just sentimental. They were strategic. He called Malcolm a warrior. That wasn't just a compliment, it was confirmation. That this fight is real. That there are casualties. And that anyone who refuses to let Hollywood dictate the story gets put on a hit list, whether that's through scandal, character assassination, or worse. Malcolm didn't just slip away. The machine claimed another one. Just like it did with so many before him. Prince. Gone. Michael Jackson. Gone. Whitney Houston. Gone. And now, Malcolm Jamal Warner gone. Each one had started to speak out, to own their story, to take back power. And every time, they were met with silence. Literal silence. But Eddie made sure this time would be different. He refused to let Malcolm vanish quietly. He refused to let the machine rewrite the ending. Malcolm's voice will not be erased. His truth will not be buried. His fight will not be forgotten. He wasn't just an actor. He was a teacher. A poet. A son. A friend. And in his final year, he chose truth over comfort. Integrity over safety. And that makes him more than a celebrity. That makes him a soldier.